Hey everybody, so I made it to day 21 and then some. I'm still here. There's still lots of sick people. Their staff still needs some relief, so I'll be here for a little bit longer, not sure how long. Day 21, it was a rough shift. It was probably one of my hardest shifts since I've been here. Still in the ICU, I'm still there now. But on my 21st shift, we ended up intubating three of our patients that night that were all awake, alert, oriented patients. All three of them were maxed out on the BiPAP. They had previously been on a non rebreather, didn't tolerate that, progressed to a BiPAP machine. Worked with that all shift, adjusting settings, and kind of all three of them presented the same way. They all, respiratory rate was in the 40s, and their O2 saturations kept dropping. And you get to the point that your BiPAP's maxed out and it's just not working anymore. So all three were able to give their own consent. Only one of the patients was mine. This was the first time that I had participated in intubating an awake and oriented person. So we did allow these patients to call family, and I was present for mine. And it was difficult. They were not able to talk long because the patient could not tolerate being off the BiPAP for very long. But his daughter made him say goodbye, made him tell them goodbye in case he died. And those were her words: "Daddy, you have to tell us bye in case you die." Really hard to hear, to know that. I mean, you've only got about a 15% chance of survival once we intubate you in the area that we're at. The odds are not in your favor. And to know that this may be the last conversation that this man has with his family, um, unexpected, and it was sad, and it was. I mean, a lot of the nurses here have had to do that. A lot of the ER nurses do it. But that's the first one that I had participated in, and it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Still didn't cry, still haven't cried. I'm sure it's coming, but this man is still alive, and I don't know, I need him to make it. I need him to survive. Um, have not seen any success stories since I left the PACU. I don't think we've had many, so it's a lot of death. It's a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you saw that Facebook post that nurse practitioner posted for her friend, being her voice. I can only speak to my experiences here and what I have seen, but I did not agree with, I think, anything that she said, or any. It's not the way we're doing things. I know where I'm at, we do try everything we can to keep from intubating these patients. You know, nasal cannula, high flow, non rebreather, BiPAP, and then, we intubate. And if not, then a lot of these patients will end up with anoxic brain injury because their oxygen saturation is just so low. They're not getting any oxygen to their brain. So we do end up intubating, but it's not our first choice. It's not the first thing we do. It's the very last thing we do. And I know, again, I can only speak to my experiences, but our patients are on the COVID cocktail, is what we call it. And that is vitamin C, zinc, Pepsid. Let me see. I think that might be it. Oh, and of course, they do 5 days of azithromycin, and we are starting to try some of the newer, kind of more experimental drugs. Everybody is on blood thinners. We're seeing some of the harder blood thinners being used because now, we're seeing a lot of the younger ones and a lot of the patients in general with these clots. Actually, my patient last night developed a PE, a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in his lungs. So I had a pretty busy night. We had the patient proned, which means we had him laying on his stomach, and he's young, he's only 44. We had him laying on his stomach, and he was not tolerating it very well. His O2 saturations kept dropping. We already had his ventilator at 100% O2, so we couldn't go up on that anymore. So his heart rate shot up to the 150s, whereas before it had been in the 60s. His blood pressure shot up, whereas the day before we had him on Levophed for his blood pressure. His O2 saturation kept dropping to the low 80s. We paralyzed him. I had this man on a paralytic, and then I had him on, let me see, propofol, fentanyl, ketamine. So I had him on 3 different sedation drugs, all for the most part maxed out, and then I had him on a paralytic, just trying to get him to calm down. And so, we flipped him back over and did an echo on him, which is where the doctor takes an ultrasound machine and kind of looks at the heart. And we saw some enlarged right ventricle, which is, indicative of a PE, without having to take him downstairs. So we did do a pretty heavy blood thinner. We did TPA, and then when that was finished, we started him on a heparin drip. Before I had left, his heart rate had come down to the 130s. His respiratory rate was down with the vent. He was holding his O2 saturation in the high 90s, so fingers crossed he will do okay. It's just, yeah, it's still a lot of deaths. It's, still a lot of sick people. Yeah, so I won't post every day, but I'll still try to keep everybody updated. If anything's going on, kind of what I'm doing, still with, the patients that I'm seeing. So I know Tennessee is open back up. I really hope everybody is staying safe, wearing a mask, not getting out any more than necessary. This is not over. It will, it's still there. It's still, just be safe. Try to stay at home as much as you can still. Yeah, and be well. Thanks.